I really wish this video was Arsenal winning 3-0 against whoever in the final. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be, but Atletico, congrats. 3-0 against Marseille, and they looked comfortable tonight, didn't they? I'm just so gutted. You can already tell by my voice. This was it. This was the night where Wenger stepped down on a massive high. This was the night where Arsenal would lift a European trophy for the first time under Arsene Wenger, and it just, for the first time, it would have been just perfect, but we couldn't do it. But we can say now that we got knocked out to the eventual winners, which is a silver lining, I guess. But I wanted to talk about a few things today, not just the match, but certain players that featured tonight. I also wanted to talk about my predictions for next year in European competitions and just kind of leave this with that, because this is the last match review of a European match until next season. So let's start off with the game itself. Marseille lined up pretty well, although I think they probably should have started Mitroglou. I think, when he came on in the second half, he looked very dangerous. So I think maybe that was a mistake. But they did start with Germain, however you want to say his name. And he missed a chance in the first 5 minutes. Could have put them 1-0 up, and we would have been talking about a different game, that's for sure. And ultimately, it was a mistake that let Atletico score. Griezmann on hand to score the first goal of the game after some very poor control just outside of the box. It was absolutely suicidal. I thought Marseille would have done better tonight, but in the end, they proved to be, well, definitely not better than Arsenal in terms of providing a challenge to Atletico, who were by far the best team in the competition, let's be honest. Atletico went with their typical defensive, solid lineup, but very, very good hitting them on the break. And I tell you what, any team with Griezmann, who I'm going to speak about in a little bit, can win a game. It's as simple as that. He's a world-class player, and I think he's going to do very well at the World Cup this summer. But that's effectively the best way to describe tonight's game. It's all about that first chance that Marseille had, which they failed to take. Atletico then somehow just pouncing on them after they've made a mistake, which was probably their first mistake of the game. I thought Marseille were doing really well up to that point. And once you're 1-0 down against Atletico, it's very, very difficult to come back because they sit back even deeper. They get more men behind the ball. And they'll just hit you on the break. And that's how they scored 2 more goals. I thought Griezmann was absolutely fantastic tonight. Let's talk about him. He is the man of the moment. Probably his last game for Atletico Madrid. It would seem so. Apparently on his way to Barcelona, who, off topic, have already apparently signed Lenglet as well, a fellow French national team player to Griezmann. Lenglet is a player that I absolutely love. I would absolutely love him to join Arsenal, but it seems like Barcelona have poached him. Just thought I'd say that to you guys, seeing as most of you are probably Arsenal fans. Really bad news that. But Griezmann, I think it makes sense, doesn't it? It's a step up. I know Atletico are a fantastic team, but Barcelona come calling. Lionel Messi comes calling. They've not really replaced Neymar. I think Coutinho was obviously a great signing. He's a fantastic player. But Griezmann is just... he's the Suarez replacement. He's the future Messi replacement. I genuinely feel like Griezmann could... obviously, he's not going to be as good as Lionel Messi, okay? But he can fill a void that Suarez will leave when he decides to stop playing, whenever, or maybe he'll just leave for another club. But he's obviously getting a bit older, and he's definitely lost it a little bit over the last few years. And when ultimately Messi decides to step down, Griezmann will be in his absolute prime by then. So it's a future investment. They're looking at easily 100 million euros. But in today's market, to get a player like Griezmann, absolute bargain. It really is. If Pogba's worth 100 million, Griezmann's worth 200 million, in my opinion. But is that really his last game for Atletico Madrid? I just don't see him staying. And I think we'll be seeing him in a Barcelona kit this summer. That's what I think anyway. I've got a note down here to speak about a certain other player as well from Atletico, and that is Lucas Hernandez, who was, for me, along with pretty much every other defensive player for Atletico tonight, man of the match. They were all, as a team, incredible tonight, especially defensively. And I know Marseille may not be the biggest threat going forward, but they certainly would have done damage to another team, I feel like, because Atletico just have this... there's something... It's like they've built a wall, pretty much. Donald Trump has decided to not build the Mexican wall along the Mexican border. He's built a wall for Atletico instead, and that wall is made of Godin. Lucas Hernandez, to me, looks like the real deal. I've heard reports that he got in trouble. I don't really want to talk about that, but it brings his personality and himself into question a little bit. But as a player, he looks to be very, very good. Wouldn't surprise me if he moves on to another club like Barcelona at some point in his career. But he was phenomenal tonight. There was an occasion where he had the ball down the left side. You could see he'd been running hard, chasing down the ball. He was exhausted, but he kept on going. And in that certain scenario, he could have just let Marseille clear the ball, but he smacked it onto a Marseille defender out for a corner, and ultimately they got another chance from it. And I saw that and thought that is such a great quality to have, a player that just does not give up, full of energy, and I think he will be a world-class defender. Can play centre-back or left-back. He can even play in midfield if you really wanted him to. I'm a big fan of his. Another player that I had to mention today as well, Fernando Torres. We've spoke about Griezmann potentially making his last appearance today for Atletico, but it's guaranteed and absolutely concrete that Fernando Torres has made his final appearance. He is leaving tonight. Well, probably not tonight, but you know what I mean. That was his final game today, and it's a little bit sad because although I don't think he was an absolute beast at Chelsea, but what we saw at Liverpool and Atletico before he moved was a true world superstar. And he may not have that anymore now. He's certainly been an absolute legend in the football game. And I love Fernando Torres. He's a fantastic finisher. For me, he has scored one of the most iconic goals in recent Champions League history for Chelsea when he rounded Barcelona at the end there and Gary Neville screamed as if he was having an orgasm. But Fernando Torres will be missed. I'm not sure where he's going. If anyone can leave a comment and tell me what his plan is. Is he going to China? Is he? Or is he going to go somewhere else in Europe? Whatever. It'll be sad to see him go. The final topic for Atletico today is going to be Simeone, who of course wasn't on the touchline again tonight, but you could tell he was still heavily influencing the side tonight. Simeone is his own brand of manager. He's just so different to everyone else. There's something about Simeone. I don't particularly like the way he sets his team out to play. Of course, they're very defensive, and it's not always the most fluent, sexy football, but my God, he is effective at getting results. And for me, he's up there in the top 5, maybe top 10 managers in the world right now. And any team would be lucky to get him. Would I want him at Arsenal, though? I know a lot of people are probably asking that question right now. The answer probably would be yes at this point, but as a long-term replacement, no. I don't like that brand of football. Arsenal's always been about good football. Wenger's obviously brought his Wenger ball, but I just don't think Simeone would be able to carry that on. I think we would turn into a more defensive team, which, yes, might get us more results, but it's not all about the results sometimes. Of course you want to be winning tournaments and winning trophies and all that stuff, but you also want to be known as a good club that plays good football, right? It's entertainment after all. But I love Simeone. He's done a very good job. Marseille, a few little things I wanted to talk about. Payet went off injured in the first half. He was absolutely distraught. You could see he was a little bit tearful. I'm hoping it's not serious because that would mean, of course, he could be missing the World Cup. So I'll be keeping my eye out on that. Hopefully by the time I upload this, they would have said what happened. But it didn't look too serious. He was able to get off the pitch himself. Just hoping for everyone's sake that he's fit for the World Cup, because there's no doubt about it. If he's fit, he gets close to the first team for sure, at least. And he would light up any game with those silky tricks. I've already mentioned how they should have started Mitroglou, in my opinion. I spoke about the mistake that they made that led to the first goal, which obviously I think ultimately caused them to lose this game. They just could not regain control. Talked about Jermaine's chance. Oh, the fans. This has to be mentioned. I'm not saying that the Atletico fans weren't good, but Marseille's fans, even towards the end of the game when they're losing 3-0, all you could hear was Marseille chants. They were absolutely incredible. They put a lot of other clubs to shame. I know a lot of clubs, especially when it comes to away games, they really do have a voice. They're a lot louder than they would be at home. I think that the away fans are obviously a bit more hardcore. If they're travelling continents, they're travelling countries to get to these games, they're obviously very, very hardcore fans. And, Arsenal's a great example. I feel like, every time I've gone to the Emirates, I've been about 10 times or so over the last few years, it's not very loud. Okay, yes, I should go more. I know a lot of people are going to say that. But when you go to an away game, I went to Stamford Bridge to watch the Arsenal game. They were louder there than at the Emirates. It's mind-boggling how loud just a couple of thousand people can be. And Marseille certainly did their team proud tonight. They were definitely their 12th man. It wasn't enough to win the game, of course, but it was great to see and hear such great support for a really good French team. I hope they continue to be as successful as they are right now. It'd be great to see them win a competition like the Europa League. But in the French league, it's difficult when you've got PSG, Monaco, you've got a lot of great teams that are just slightly ahead. But they did themselves proud in this year's tournament. They really did. They got all the way to the final, which a lot of clubs would have killed to do, including Arsenal. I'm really, really sad it didn't quite work out for Arsenal, but in the end, we got worthy winners. Atletico Madrid were always going to win it, weren't they? They were always favourites, and they showed tonight just how good they are once again. 3-0 winners. But that will be goodbye to Torres, probably goodbye to Griezmann as well. How are Atletico going to replace these two? I think they'll replace Torres pretty easily. He hasn't been that great for them. But Griezmann, very, very difficult to replace that kind of player. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Thank you for watching, guys. That is, of course... oh my god, I forgot. I was about to say it's the final European game, but there's the Champions League final. How did I forget about that? The Champions League final review will be up, obviously, the night when it happens, which is just a couple of weeks away now. Thank you so much for watching this review. Congrats to Atletico fans. You are champions of the Europa League. Shame it's not the Champions League, but it's not bad. It's not too bad. Thanks for watching, and I will see you for that Champions League final very soon. Don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell notification so you get notified when I upload.